This microphone's all in my face.
In your face, mofo. What are we going to need that
Was that
for?
your attempt at internet speech?
What's internet speech? You mean leet speak?
No. Metronome's on, but...
We've started.
Have we?
How is this going to work today? Maybe we should...
Catastrophically.
Well, how should we explain ourselves?
Let's just begin as we do.
Okay. Please don't spill beer on the laptop. That's a very Nick thing to do. Did you hear? No, you wouldn't have heard because you don't listen to the other After Dark podcasts, do you?
I'm sorry.
Nick trashed his MacBook.
Oh, how?
I don't know. I think he was trying to do acrobatics with a beer, and it went on his keyboard. So now he can only work his MacBook using an external USB keyboard.
How do you do acrobatics with a beer?
Well, you don't safely without breaking a MacBook.
What if you're nowhere near a MacBook?
Yeah, but you are, and you're near my other business laptop as well. So, mind you, the keyboard's fucked on that one anyway, which is why I've got one of these that you guys can't see on podcast land. Have we started? Are they listening? Have they come into the auditorium?
You edit the fucking thing, so you should know.
Is there anybody out there?
Is there anybody out there? Don't.
We play that now in Crossfire.
Because I feel a little sick. I'm not sure that's what the line comes next, but whatever. Jesus, you a cat?
No.
Please don't claw out your fucking throat. Should we just get started? And can you stop fucking burping because it interrupts things? Christ.
Almighty.
Hello, Internet.
This is going to be a fucking clusterfuck, isn't it?
if this is
Have we started? No, let us do that when you've introduced the podcast.
If this is just for patrons,
It's not.
We are quite pissed.
Go.
Hello, Internet. I am Firebolt.
I'm the Orbiter. And I'm the Orbiter. This is going to be an interesting episode.
I'm not sure what's before the intro and what's after, but we did our Patreon thingy, Bob.
Yeah, for no one, because none of you miserable fuckers will give us any money.
We decided to do that before the podcast today for
a good reason.
Yeah. We'll get into that after we go through the news, because a lot has happened.
The thing is, well, first of all, we're recording this a lot earlier than we would normally do, because you're buggering off again. You're gallivanting again, aren't you? You're visiting our dear friends in Europe.
I'm going to Strasbourg to get
Is there some kind of European thing there? Is it where the Parliament is? Yeah.
Although it meets between Brussels and Strasbourg.
Are they still being allowed to parle?
Yeah. I mean, the European Union's going to go on like business as usual after
they can't be prorogated, can they?
I don't know. How,
it's going to
most of Britain doesn't really know anything about the European Parliament, which is kind of how we landed on.
Let's face it, most of Britain doesn't know anything about their own Parliament.
No.
It's going to be an interesting
a lot
week.
About what's happened, but that's democracy.
Well, since last time, the Home Office have had their information advert banned by the Advertising Standards Agency.
Yeah, which is quite extreme because, like, the Advertising Standards Agency usually don't step in that much, do they?
Yeah, if there are complaints about something which is misleading in advertising, they ban the advert. So our own Home Office is misleading us. Oh, there's a surprise.
You can stick that in with half of the political ads, though.
It's going to be an interesting week, though. There's 2 court cases coming up against the Prime Minister, basically, isn't it? He's going to face a lot this week. It could be... by the time this podcast goes out, any number of things could have happened.
Yeah. We were recording this...
about a week and a half
31st of August.
Yeah, but it's going out, I think, the 12th of September, so it's nearly 2 weeks away.
Yeah, well, that is because I'm fucking off.
Could be interesting, because by the time this goes out, our parliament might actually be prorogued.
Could be. I'm gonna get one last good look at the place before we close our borders or something equally ridiculous.
Good look at the place.
Europe.
All right, okay. Well, you'll be able to go there again. It'll just be a pain in the ass. I had an email from the ISM, my musicians union, Incorporated Society of Musicians.
Which is attached to all your emails.
It is, yes. Which says that the average cost to musicians who have been working in Europe is going to be about £1,000 a year, and asking me to write a letter to my MP to request that the government
it's going to be
for that.
really bad for loads of industries. I've seen it as well to do with
fucking no point writing to our MP about it though. He's a fucking cockwomble.
He's a Tory lapdog, like most of them. He did not voted against the government once.
No, not for long though.
Although Ruth Davidson resigned.
She did.
So that could mean
supposedly it had nothing to do with Boris Johnson's decision, which supposedly had nothing to do with Brexit.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to honestly spin it as if it's not just to get Brexit through. Like, they're genuinely trying to spin it as though, it's for crime.
That's kind of ironic, though,
welfare.
isn't it? Ruth Davidson's honestly trying to spin it as though it's nothing to do with. It's like the same day that news story came out. She's like, I'm gonna leave tomorrow.
Yeah,
I think. I've been thinking about it for a long time, but I'm going to do it now.
I mean, the DUP thing probably didn't help because I think she's a lesbian, so
she is.
They're very against equal marriage rights. So,
to be fair, if I was a woman, I would be a lesbian too.
Okay, I would stay the same.
What's that?
Bye.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were saying goodbye.
No. This is going to sort of break down as a bit of a podcast because, well, as you can already tell, I'm stuttering on every fucking word.
Have we got any more news, or should we introduce why we've decided to begin already half inebriated, just to see what happens?
Oh, I noticed today, straight pride parades trending on Twitter.
Straight pride.
I think that's happening in like Boston or something.
Okay.
It's very obvious that it's nothing to do with actually being fucking straight, though. When you actually see the fucking floats.
What are they? The floats? What's on them?
Mostly like MAGA type things.
Who?
Make America Great Again. Trump.
What's that got to do with being straight?
Nothing, except the sort of people that think that they need a straight pride parade are the sort of people that vote for fucking Donald Trump. Which is hardly surprising.
Oh, Hong Kong's kicking off, kicking off, big styly.
Yeah.
They had water cannons out. And we've had sectarian riots in Glasgow.
Yeah, that did surprise me slightly. Cause
well, actually, I mean, I had to look it up because the first thing I knew about it, I was filling up the car today and I saw a copy of The Sun on the counter that said something about riots on the streets of Glasgow.
Be careful what you read in The Sun, though.
I know, but that's why I had to look it up because I thought, what's that? What the fuck's that about? But yeah, there was some unionist march, I think, and then some counter-protesters. Or was it a loyalist? I can't remember. One side or the other, and then there was a counter-protest.
Unionist and loyalist are the same thing, aren't they?
I don't know, because they're not loyalists loyal to...
I think loyalists are loyal, like, because...
So what do you call the other side?
They're Republicans.
Oh, right, okay.
But that gets a bit confusing to do with America's Republicans.
Well,
but
see,
America's loyalists were also loyal to Britain.
This is one of the things. I bet the Queen's really pissed off with everything at the moment. It's like, because I mean, well, see, I've not been probably as anti-royal as a lot of people in the past because, you know, I see it as kind of, it's just a kind of a quaint sort of tourist industry boost. But it's when things like this happen that you kind of think, oh, for fuck's sake, why do we even have a monarchy? It's like
there's a brilliant philosophy tube video on that.
Oh, you're gonna make me put links in the description.
No, Whatever, it's your choice.
By the way, I have to apologise.
What?
Because I told them that I told the audience that they're miserable fuckers for not supporting us on Patreon, and that's. Did you not hear me say that?
I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, people.
You're miserable fuckers anyway. You don't need to not support us on Patreon to be miserable fuckers.
Seriously though, what we've just recorded before this was our 14th Bob video,
yeah,
which is the monthly subscriber only video. Subscribers on Patreon get access to all of our recordings uncut, so that means amateur and unprofessional, but you get to see the behind the scenes shit of. Oh, I'm not making any sense.
Working today, aren't you?
I'm what?
You're functioning.
I'm functioning.
Yeah, that's being sarcastic.
Oh. It didn't work, did it?
No.
You failed.
There is some more discussion on the news to have.
Oh, go on then. Oh, Greta arrived in New York.
Yes, I mean...
Without having been killed.
No, despite veiled threats
yeah.
from various billionaires. The same one that bankrolled Nigel Farage, by the way, which is hardly fucking surprising.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that proroguing thing's got Dominic Cummings written all over it.
Oh yeah, it's just that sort of direct diversion of
something's got to happen. How can we possibly? Oh, it's just I don't understand how the country can be in the position it's in at the moment. But which is why this week's going to be really interesting. I mean, it's going to be like that really exciting episode of Big Brother, watching the news.
Yeah, except the whole country's being evicted and fucked in the ass.
Tuesday, Wednesday, it's going to be interesting. There's 2 court cases.
I mean, on a more serious note, it does feel like worldwide democracy is being seriously eroded.
Yeah, it's difficult though, isn't it? Because
and it's all just become normal now because it's just all built up over the last few years. From 2016, it's just all ramped up to something that is deeply uncomfortable.
I have to find a quote. Please excuse me, I may have to edit a bit of time out, but I have to find a quote that a friend of mine put up on Facebook, which I thought was spot on.
I did particularly hear on the day that Brexit was voted in, the podcasts.
Oh, here we go.
Doing their thing, and that's a discontinued podcast, but they did say it would be a slippery slope the way things were going, and where are we now where just ignoring fucking Parliament is something that about a third of the country is still supporting.
Yeah, it was a quote from The Handmaid's Tale, which I actually wouldn't mind reading this. I know it's been made into a TV series, hasn't it, The Handmaid's Tale? I think Star Stuff was watching it. And it says, that was when they suspended the Constitution. They said it would be temporary. There wasn't even any rioting in the streets. People stayed home at night watching television, looking for some direction. There wasn't even an enemy you could put your finger on. Although I did have to laugh at one of the comments that came up on it. It was, I think we can find an enemy we can put the finger on. But, you know what I mean? People, I don't know. Some people want what's happening.
Yeah,
that's the problem. A lot of other people don't. There have been protests in every major city across the country.
See what the petition's up to now. I think it was slowing down. I'm not even making any sense.
Well, I mean, even that. I mean, that slowed down right. I don't think that's going to get anywhere near what the second referendum petition got. I think people are getting petition fatigue now as well.
Yeah, well, it's just this sort of constant. It's just this constant barragement of I'm not making words.
1,673,759 signatures.
But it's just this constant. Especially with Trump, like day one, he was saying his inauguration speech crowds were the biggest in history.
Yeah, that was bollocks, wasn't it?
So on day one, got used to this idea of this is just going to be complete bullshit and lies from the start, to the point where he's now saying that you'll fucking nuke hurricanes, and that's just like...
Yeah, but that's in the same category as buying Greenland.
That's happened
totally
in the space of a
removed
fucking week. He just warps fucking our perception of time, even.
Yeah. The demonstrations, I have to laugh at the BBC coverage of it, saying that a small group of counter-protesters marching in support of the Prime Minister also arrived in Westminster. But it tends to be that there's just thousands in every city, really. And it's going to be interesting. I think it could be a lot worse. I mean, not worse. I think it could be a lot heavier, the protesting, if it actually happens. I think there's possibly, at the moment, people I think are protesting in the belief that their protests are going to make a difference and possibly help to stop it happen.
But sadly, I don't think it fucking is, because...
Do you not?
The government doesn't give a shit about what people want.
Well, the government might not, but the Parliament do have a very small window in which to basically strike. I've been reading articles saying that, there's basically a surgical plan in place, right, for as soon as Parliament starts on Tuesday. And John Burkoff's got the decision about Burko has got the decision about whether to grant an emergency debate on it. So, which he will.
Yeah, with that petition, I think legally they have to, because the petition's actually about proroguing Parliament. And if they don't have a debate on it, then it's sort of breaking their own rules, because if it is prorogued before they have a debate on it, then by the time the debate's able to be had, then that's already gone and passed. So it's kind of redundant.
I mean, what all of this is currently an example of, and potentially could be long-term, hopefully an example of, is exactly the subject of our podcast.
Hang on. Have they actually responded to it yet?
Who?
The government.
Well, no, they're not open yet.
Well, Parliament isn't open, but the government's still doing stuff. 3 days still waiting for a
it's Parliament that considers petitions.
Is it?
Parliament will consider this for a debate.
Yeah, but the government response.
Government will respond, waiting for 3 days. Yeah. Well, I mean, that kind of lines up with, because Parliament opens on Tuesday. So I think we should get on.
Right. Okay.
What we're going to talk about today. What we're going to try and talk about today.
We are talking about failure.
I feel like I'm going to be speaking a lot more from experience than you.
Well, you've been alive longer than me. So.
That's an interesting point. Does that necessarily imply that the longer you live, the more failures you live through?
On average, I suppose. Well, on average, if there's similar amount of failures per person, but I guess it changes.
One of my daily meditation things that I actually managed to do this week, which I think was only 2, was talking about not thinking of things in terms of regret or failure, but in terms of lessons.
Well, that's quite an important thing, and it's
he who maketh no mistakes learneth nothing.
Because that implies that women don't learn anything or don't make mistakes, which are both incorrect.
Women don't make mistakes.
I am one of them.
Yeah, but that could have been me that made that mistake.
I guess we'll never know.
Yeah. Oops, sorry, love.
Nice to discuss my conception. Anyway, so when I sort of, because that's kind of a bit of a weird topic in the abstract.
What is?
Failure.
So we can talk about specific failures?
Perhaps not, but
maybe we should. You don't have that many. You just fucking passed everything with flying colours. I was actually, during this podcast, because I mean, it could quite easily, during the course of this podcast, address some of what you could see as failures in my past. Yeah. So I was going to ask at some point, do you have in your life anything that you can remember that you regard as a failure of yours, not of other people against you or towards you, but
definitely.
Do you feel like you failed at something?
Definitely, yeah. But it's that sort of thing of I've been able to move on from that. On the whole, I feel like I'm not the greatest person in the world, but I'm fairly decent when I can be.
Sorry.
Am I that boring?
Nah. It's late, and
It
it's
is?
late. It's a good song by Queen. It's late!
Not heard that one.
Oh, it's fantastic.
No, it's late.
It's on news. I think it's on the News of the World.
Okay.
Oh, that has to be listened to.
Okay. Anyway,
Really good.
yeah,
It's a good album, actually. Who Needs You? My Melancholy Blues. Please carry on.
okay. I think most of like what I would consider a failure that I haven't really sort of fixed, I suppose, but that's because of priorities, is sporting, I guess. Sporting failures, because
Yeah, but it's not really a failure unless you've set out to achieve something.
well, I did used to when I was like primary.
Oh, you did
age.
karate for a while, didn't you?
Judo. Very
Sorry.
different.
Oh, shit.
You just failed to remember.
I'm a failure of a parent. I knew it was something Japanese.
Well, it's Japanese and Brazilian, weirdly.
Really? That's a strange coming together of cultures.
I can't remember why.
See episode 42.
Ooh. Is that a recurring gag?
That's what she said.
This podcast might be a failure in
Random.
itself. So
Random features of...
I don't know why we're acting this pissed. We have only we've had 1.5 beers now.
Well, the thing is, with me, I think my metabolism has sped up because pretty much over the last 2 weeks I've been pretty much vegan. Not completely, but
Yeah,
vegetarian.
that
So
might
my
be kind of a shock to the system.
everything's going through me a lot quicker.
Way.
We had a crispy chili tofu tonight, didn't we?
I mean, it had a tablespoon of sriracha in it, which is just fucking ridiculous.
And sweet chili sauce.
Like, I've had a little bit of I've had like a finger dip of it before on its own. Shut up. And it's fucking spicy. So having a fucking tablespoon in something is just ludicrous.
I have no idea what we're supposed to do with this podcast today. Because I mean, I'm enjoying it, but is it entertaining? Do you think?
Probably. Who gives a shit? Probably the algorithm, but what?
Well, manure salespeople do.
They I suppose yes, they do.
Well, they don't give them, do they? I suppose they
They
sell them. They
Yes.
they exchange them for some other form of payment.
right. Let's just get back on topic. Right. So
Favors for shit.
failure. Right. So I suppose what I was thinking of when I came.
You're
up
still
with this,
trying to make it serious. Carry on.
sort of was something that I've incorporated into my meaning of life, not to be so
That
high
keeps
and
coming
mighty.
out, doesn't it? Your meaning of life.
I feel like it was just
It's like it's all encompassing.
Yeah, well, it's kind of meant to be. I'll probably lose sight of things in a couple of years, but it feels like it.
Is that the example I'm setting? That you think you're just gonna get like
It's not
sidetracked?
that you're setting that example; it's that society's setting that example, and you are part of society.
Oh, it looks like Hurricane Dorian's going to fail to reach Florida before it makes landfall. It's that's failure of a hurricane to reach Florida.
That's a good thing, kind of.
Yeah. But not necessarily for people in Carolina.
Oh, is it going to Carolina instead?
Possibly. But oh yeah, that was a
Who gives
failure.
shit about
The
Carolina?
weather forecaster on BBC calling it Disneyland in Orlando, in Disneyland in Florida.
That doesn't feel like I've called it Disneyland before, and
Yeah, but you were wrong.
I don't give a shit.
I do.
It's
It's just wrong.
Well, you're a dickhead.
How very dare you? I'm your father,
You've been
don't
wrong
you know?
before. Dick.
Anyway.
Anyway.
What do you mean I've been wrong before?
In many ways, yes.
How? I don't understand what you mean.
I really need a piss.
Oh, for fuck's sake. We're less than half an hour in. Go.
Don't talk shit about me, you dick.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. Get off my nose, you knob jockey. Oh. I feel like I should come up with an amusing ditty. It's always the same, isn't it? When somebody leaves the room, it's always like, Firebolt is a wanker, Firebolt is a knob jockey, Firebolt sucks dick, Firebolt can get 3 cucumbers up his arse at a time. I don't know this by experience, by the way. I have no idea what I'm talking about. This is way too drunk for the little amount of beer I've had. I don't drink very often, so... what a failure of a father I am. Failure. He's coming back now. I've got to try and pretend I haven't been talking about him. But it's not going to work. Exactly. See, I told you.
What you've been saying about me?
I told you. Why are you molesting me?
I'm not. That's a weird thing to say. Especially to your son.
I said something strange about cucumbers. I don't know why. You'll have to wait and see what that was.
If I listen back to it.
If I always listen back to our podcasts.
I don't always get time.
We have I think probably about 14 listeners, and one of them is me.
One of them is usually me, but I don't know. I usually fall asleep on the way to school.
I just found the last one quite funny.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know whether this is going to be.
Well, we're pissed, so that's... I mean, it's funny to us right now, but...
Yeah, but is that going to translate into... I mean, we should talk about something.
It depends what mood you're in,
We should talk about something.
Okay.
What should we talk about?
Right.
Massive failures.
Fuck, shut up. Just a sec. Let me say my thing, and then you can talk.
I was letting you talk.
Meaning of life.
42.
Sort of. It's sort of these 3, I guess, contributions to.
You've said all these things already.
Yeah, but like to.
In case I haven't listened to that episode.
It's basically to learn and to teach.
They're 2 things.
Yes, but the third sort of combined thing, and this comes into the Hegelian dialectic thing that I was talking about, the synthesis thing. So there's shut up. Learning to improve yourself, which has a knock-on effect on others anyway, but also just on yourself, which is valuable enough in itself. And there's important truth to that, I feel. Even if you're fucking farting to undermine my point. The next part's quite difficult, especially if you don't know what you're fucking talking about. Teaching.
Oh, no. My mum, your nan, and my brother, your uncle, were teachers. One of them still is.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of teachers. I can't do it. I've tried.
My nan's still
teaching.
kind
I've tried
of a teacher.
Instrumental teaching. I think I think it is a particular skill. There's a lot of people who try to do it as a fallback, especially musicians that will use it to kind of boost their income or what. And I can't, in all conscientiousness, I can't do that because I don't enjoy it really.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm that good at it. Having said that, I do teach music to a choir.
Yeah.
I have found that a challenge, but I am getting. But yeah,
there's a more generic aspect to that of just sort of, and I suppose, hopefully in some way you can relate to this as a parent, sort of passing on a sort of wisdom, I suppose.
Mm.
I mean, I don't know how my wisdom's come out of you, but
experience.
Has.
Yes. No, well, I think, but see, I feel like I've learned a lot from you.
Yeah, but there's, I guess, coming back to the failure thing, there's a lot to be learned from one's own failures, but there's also a lot to be learned from others, and that's, I guess, a lot more useful because it means that there's not really consequences to you failing in the first place. Well, it just means that you can still learn the lesson.
It depends what you mean by failure as well, because there are a lot of things which have happened in my life which I could see as failures, but at the same time, if I did and I went back and corrected them, there are so many amazing, brilliant, great things about my life now that would not exist. And who knows what would replace them?
No, I guess failure, the word itself sort of implies complete failure. Like
me getting an F for my French A level.
I suppose.
No, it wasn't an F, it was a U, ungraded.
How bad did it have to be ungraded?
I cheated in my coursework. I got disqualified.
But how do you... Whatever. Were you just so shit at it that you were like...
No, I was stupid enough to copy from a handout the teacher had given out.
You dick. That was a failure, yes.
Yeah.
But I guess... I mean, that's what the word means in a wider context.
I got away with that because I got away with it, but my acceptance for the Royal Academy of Music was unconditional, so I didn't need any particular results. So,
but
I was lucky in that sense.
Yeah,
I failed to complete that course though.
I guess failure does imply a sort of. It implies that there's nothing good to come of it. Everything is bad about it.
That's the thing.
There's such a negative connotation to that.
That 2 and a bit years that I spent in London, I probably learned more in that time. I mean, I changed as a person and learned more in that time than at any other time in my life.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not any other time, but certainly the only other thing that could come close to it would be having kids. So I don't regret any of it. I think that's the key, isn't it? It's what you personally regard as failure is determined by whether or not you regret something. I mean, you can have literal failure in terms of an exam that you either pass or fail, but in terms of experience, something's only a failure if you feel you got nothing out of it and if you regret that it happened or didn't happen.
But there's I suppose when I was picking this subject, I more meant mistakes, but that's kind of less. There's not really one word for that, I guess. Sort of like as a topic word, it doesn't really work as much. But I guess coming back to my whole philosophy thing, there is an importance in introspection.
Yeah.
Basically, being aware of yourself, being aware of your own limitations, being able to ask for help when you do actually need it, because you're a fucking human being, you do need help. That's the only way that we've made it to where we are as a species. But I don't strive to make mistakes, because if you strive to make mistakes, then are you making a mistake by making a mistake? But I guess that doesn't really...
Do you think we get preachy? We spend a lot of time, both of us, telling our audience how to live their lives.
I guess, but it's sort of they're willingly listening to this if they're listening to it. So
yeah, I suppose to a certain extent we're kind of telling ourselves as well.
Yeah, we do, especially in this, acknowledge that we make mistakes, and my sort of meaning of life thing is a general sort of idea on just sort of recontextualizing. Oh, that's weird. Recontextualizing.
Recontextualizing.
Well, that's what I said originally.
Is it? Oh my god!
What are you doing? What are you doing? Why stop?
Pardon me.
What are you doing?
I'm looking to see whether or not
We haven't.
I was so hoping that this would happen. We're on 499 followers.
Yeah, can you not get so distracted in the middle of my fucking sentence, please?
Well, you've been talking about the same thing for the last quarter of an hour.
You keep fucking interrupting me. And plus I'm pissed.
Well,
can you not just look up fucking Facebook statistics in the middle of a thing, though?
Why? I was looking for something that was an achievement, the antithesis of failure.
Okay, fine, whatever. Well, it was a fucking failure, wasn't
We
it?
failed to get any of our American listeners to tell us why they listen to us.
I guess. But
I think.
There's a sort of point about, I guess with that, we will eventually get 500 followers. Sort of perseverance.
It's not really well, I suppose it is, yeah. I mean, I've got like a slow drip advert going.
Well, it's just sort of keeping the fucking thing going. As a perseverance.
I mean, I sort of thought, I feel a bit kind of putting an advert out to get Facebook. I mean, it's a Facebook advert. It's not one of these where you like pay to get follows or anything like that. But I suppose that's what advertising is, basically.
Well, it's paying for people's attention.
Yeah, but I thought like sponsoring an advert is you feel hesitant to throw money at something, but then you sort of think, well, when you think of the amount that you're sort of paying for like hosting and stuff of a website and stuff like that, and even to a point like buying equipment and stuff like that, you're kind of investing in that way anyway. So it's kind of, I mean, we're not doing this to attract attention or get listeners. We're just doing this for fun.
Kind of, yeah. Well, we
kind of got to, yeah. But what kind of fun is it?
I mean, I guess looking back to some of the...
Why is this fun to us?
I
nearly knocked my beer on the
creative plus I don't know.
But you said something interesting earlier on that I thought was really nice about football.
Oh yeah, I mean, it'll be on the bob if you actually fucking pay for that. But
maybe we should get abusive with our listeners. Maybe they might actually like it.
Oh, I don't like that.
I didn't mean physically or sexually, although at least we'd get some enjoyment out of that. But
can you stop fiddling with your fucking label?
Startup ramen.
Right. I said
let's
I sort of lost interest in football because like you were out doing a gig or something, and can you please stop fucking knocking your mic?
I'm rubbing my eye.
Can you get it on the other side of the mic?
Get off my mic, you cock.
Get it on the other side of the mic because you keep fucking knocking it.
Oh, we should what the fuck is this podcast? What is this podcast?
You're ruining it.
Me?
Yes. Dick.
Tom.
Sorry.
Why did you just say dick and then say sorry?
Because I didn't mean it.
So why did you say it?
Because I don't know. Fuck off.
Shuck off.
Fuck off. I said fuck off.
That's swearing.
Fuck off.
What were you trying to say?
Right. I was going to talk about the football thing.
Oh, yeah.
You just kept going all over your fucking mic.
Stop it. Look, I've got to edit this. I wasn't touching my mic anyway.
You were. Well, don't put it under the fucking mic.
Were.
Like fucking that was what you were doing. And it was touching the mic and it was giving me fucking
Firebolt,
anxiety.
Theo, what even the fuck is this episode about?
Fuck off.
What is it? What are we doing?
Fuck. Let me speak. Dick.
I will have a voice. I have a voice.
Right, football thing. I said...
Oh, no, don't touch me. No, he's touching me.
You?
Mr. Policeman, he's touching me.
What are you?
What?
What are you?
A failure.
Yes. Yes, that is what you are.
Yeah, but it's kind of ironic that because the fact that we're doing this and you're doing that means that I'm not, as a father, I'm not a failure.
Does it?
Well, you're here.
That's not the bare minimum requirements of a parent. that I'm still alive.
Well, it kind of is, because if you and Nienna weren't here, then I wouldn't be a parent. So I've succeeded in being a parent.
Not necessarily being a good parent, although I don't think you're a bad parent.
I didn't say anything about... I wasn't grading.
Right, football thing.
Yeah. Jesus, get on with the story, man.
Right, yeah, fuck off. Stop.
Make it stop. Oh, they're making a Matrix 4.
How is this relevant to anything?
Well, it just popped into my head, so I thought I'd say it.
You dick. Fucking hell.
But what do you think about that?
Can I get on with my story first?
It's all me.
Right.
You've got a massive gap there, and you just let me fill it.
Fucking hell. Is this failing to be a podcast?
I don't know. It feels like it.
Right, can you shut the fuck up then? Right, football thing, Christ.
I'm scared because we're only 3/4 of an hour in.
Shut up. Right. Christ, okay, right.
42.
Shut up! Why are you even saying that?
I have no idea.
Why? Why?
No,
Why?
no, look. Get rid.
Why?
Ah! Help! Help me.
Right.
Squeaky.
This is just breaking down. I'm very sorry, listeners. We've let you down, really.
No, they're enjoying it. They're rolling around in their bowls of cereal.
Shit.
Bowls of shit.
Just shit.
What were you talking
Not
about?
keeping
Football.
it in a bowl.
Oh yeah.
Right.
You stopped watching it because I wasn't there.
No. You ruined the fucking... Right. But you still... Like, we
I
really...
blown it. After all that, I've blown the punchline.
Christ. Right. Used to watch the... Usually just the English matches. When people actually get... Can you fuck off?
That wart that I bit. It's
Can you keep your attention for more than 5 fucking seconds?
It's going septic.
Put some fucking antiseptic cream on it then.
I don't have any because you stole it. You've got the Germaline.
What? Ask for it.
Can I have the Germaline, please?
Maybe after the podcast, you dickhead.
Okay then.
Christ.
There's no need to be nasty.
Right.
Tell your story.
Shut up. Christ, look at that spike.
Oh, that was you. That's your mic.
Yes, because I had to shout at you.
Did you shout?
Kind of.
Maybe you knocked your mic.
Shut up.
You knocked your mic, didn't you? You did.
Shut the fuck up, please.
Oh, the Dark Crystal's back on Netflix as well.
Why? 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 This is just shit now, isn't it?
No.
What are you doing?
I don't know. It might be entertaining.
What?
It might. What if I get to?
What? Shut up.
What if I get to editing this?
Just shut
And
up.
I'm listening and I think there's nothing here I can use. There's literally nothing. It will be what we
Shut
discussed
the
earlier.
fuck
We just
up.
like put out.
Shut the fuck up.
This is a
Shut
failure.
the fuck up.
White
Shut the fuck
noise.
up. Shut the fuck up. Right.
Or it might be the most successful
Football
thing
story.
we've ever done.
Football story. Christ, it's fucking midnight.
Oh, shh.
Shut
See, I did tell you.
up. Just shut that fucking
The microphone's there. Speak into it.
Shut your mouth, though.
Oh, carry on then.
Stop interrupting.
I'm waiting.
Stop. Just shut it.
It's dead air that I have to edit out.
No.
Dead air.
Shut up. Right. Football story. I used to watch like just the English matches of the World Cup, but usually with you. Can you stop? But you were out some night, and I watched some. I just got fucking really bored because I realised that the bit that I actually enjoyed
I'm gonna cry.
was spending time with
I'm gonna
you.
cry.
Lots fucking changed since then. I clearly don't enjoy time with you anymore.
Well, that's debatable. I mean, you do spend an awful lot of time on this project here that we're disseminating to the world.
I didn't realise.
Did you just break your finger?
I just cracked my knuckles. Right.
That took a long time to get out.
Yes, it did, because you kept fucking interrupting.
That's what she said.
Right. Okay, right, on to your wider context. Interesting enough, do you want to talk about any failures of your own?
I don't have any.
Yes, you fucking do.
What?
Okay, learning in physics, by the way, that apparently you're much less likely to survive a crash in a smart car than you are in a regular car.
Is that true?
Yes. Well, they crumple less, so...
What do?
Smart cars. So it, you accelerate, your body accelerates in a much shorter time period, so your organs just sort of flop forward into your ribs. So you were lucky to survive that.
Is this? No, are you serious though?
Yeah.
That's what you're learning? Because I actually thought that well, it depends. I mean, they do crumple less, but that's because of the tritium safety cell, and I thought that was why I survived. Because otherwise, I'm thinking that the roof might have caved in and broke my neck or something.
Well, the structure of a car, if it does crumple, does get fucked up a bit more. But what actually happens to the passenger is a lot worse in the situation of a smart car.
Maybe it depends on the speed.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Obviously.
Well, if you're crashing at fucking 5 miles per hour, it's not going to do much to your fucking body, is it?
No. I suppose there's pros and cons, isn't there? I mean, the thing with a smart car is that there's no engine in the front to...
I suppose, yes. You're less likely to...
you don't want it to crumple because your feet are pretty much at the front of the car
No.
to start with.
Yeah, well, I suppose the idea with other kind of cars is that crumpling is by design.
Yeah.
So that... I'm not just going to ignore that.
No, you haven't, though. You've referenced it now.
The force is on the front of the car rather than the
Use the force.
driver or passengers.
I am your father.
Well, would you like to talk about that at all?
In what way?
The crash that you had.
Oh, you're going to draw that one out of me, aren't you?
Well, it was a kind of failure, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was a failure waiting to happen, really. Yeah, don't drink and drive, folks.
Oh, were you drinking?
Yeah.
I didn't realise this. I thought you just fell asleep at the wheel.
No, I did that too. But I don't know, it's difficult. I mean, it was the middle of the night. You can sort of think, well, that's the other thing. Don't drive when you're really sleepy either, because it's just as dangerous as driving when you've been drinking.
Yeah. I mean...
Or don't drive under the influence of drugs.
I can testify to that using my Eurotruck thing, because
I mean, I can say don't do it until I'm blue in the face.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you know, I'd have heard that message no end of times before it happened to me. Sometimes the only way to learn a particular lesson is to make that mistake.
Yeah, but that's the sort of mistake that, under the wrong circumstances, you don't get to make it twice.
No. And I think the thing that, I mean, I lost my license for a year, and I don't resent that at all, because that during the course of that year, there were so many times that, well, I did a lot of thinking. From the morning after, when I got home at like 6:30 or whatever it was, and Nina came in and gave me a hug, and I just burst into tears because I thought, I mean, first of all, it was a case of thinking, well, you know, I could have not been coming home. You know, I could have left you two without a dad. But also, the other thing was, I mean, it was the middle of the night. Fortunately, there weren't any other cars around. But in a similar kind of situation, you could put somebody else who's totally blameless in the same position.
Yeah.
I mean, what happened? I fell asleep, and fortunately, I was in a 30-mile-an-hour limit and going quite slowly. Not exactly sure whether or not, because I think one of the things that can happen if you fall asleep while you're driving is that your foot can go down on the accelerator.
Yeah.
I actually hit a lamppost and the car rolled, came to a rest on its side, and I had to climb out through the passenger window. And it was fucking cold. It was like really, it was frosty, like sub-zero. And it was quite a while before anyone came along, but I managed to flag someone down to try and phone. They actually gave me their mobile phone. They were on their way to the airport, so they couldn't stop because they had to get to the airport to meet a flight. But they left my phone with them and asked me for the address so they could come and get it back later on, so that I could phone for help. And I called on myself, really. I called 999 and did the thing. And I suppose there were a few opportunities where I could have perhaps got away with it, as it were, by perhaps calling for recovery first, or even when the ambulance came, I was offered the opportunity to, even though I've been breathalyzed, I think they take you back to the station to have a proper blood test done to get like sort of evidence that can be used in court, sort of verification, if you like. And the ambulance driver had asked, because I'd got a bruise on my head, because actually, believe it or not, you can fit in a smart car, you can fit a keyboard, 2 PA speakers, and a load of gear for a gig, if you're really kind of inventive. But yeah, I got hit in the side of the head with a Mackie SM450 speaker, which is those ones that we've got in the cupboard at the moment that I use.
Right.
So I had a big lump on my head for a while. And yeah, the ambulance driver said, did I want to come back to the hospital to be checked over? So, and I kind of feel like he was giving me a bit of an escape route, but I'm kind of, in some ways, I'm glad, and kind not glad that it happened, but I don't regret taking responsibility for it.
Yeah.
Because I think that year, that was a difficult year, because obviously I was playing in a wedding band still, and having your own independent transport is a fairly integral part of that. So basically for that entire year, I chose to book myself into Travelodge rooms left, right and centre, so that I could get transport from other band members without causing too... Because, I mean, I live 30 miles outside Aberdeen, and some of them live in Aberdeen, some of them live in opposite directions, so it's a long way to get them to come and pick me up from Inch and drop me off at Inch. So, say if we had a gig in Aberdeen, I would book a Travelodge room in Aberdeen, and I might say I'd take my keyboard from here, I would carry it up to the train, catch the train into Aberdeen with my keyboard. I mean, it's fairly light, but it's a mile up to the train station, so that's quite... Yeah, it gets heavy over that distance. With my backpack on my back, with stuff for the hotel and half of the equipment. We shared the equipment out, so one person was taking one speaker.
That big flight case.
Not the biggest one with the wheels, but the smaller of the two. Yeah,
That's still bloody heavy.
Yeah. So I would then catch the train into Aberdeen earlier in the day, walk from the station up to the Travelodge, and then get one of them to pick me up and take me to the gig with my keyboard, and then drop me off back at the Travelodge, because it's not too far out the way from wherever the gig was. But it was a difficult year. Like, I stayed at different places. I don't know how I got to half of them. I remember staying at Bucksburn Travelodge, which is down near the airport, because that was often quite cheap. But I can't remember how I got there. Oh, hang on a minute. That was back when Mum was driving.
Yeah. So there was
She had to do all the driving that year.
Yeah, there was less. It would be less complicated than if that.
That's weird,
now.
though, isn't it? I mean, that is weird. That it has become normal for us to be in a family where only one of the parents can drive.
Yeah, but that is because stuff's on drugs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, going back to news, I saw the DWP Department for Work and Pensions being criticised for denying a guy who was terminally ill personal independence payments.
Wasn't that a while ago? Maybe.
No, it was this week that another one happened. But
Oh, yeah. Yes, another one. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
I
great to
reposted
know
saying
about.
how much longer do we have to live in a country run by murderers? Because the guy couldn't afford heating, so I mean, okay, he was terminally ill. He was going to die anyway, but you can pretty much guarantee he died sooner than he had to, because he couldn't, you know.
It's disturbing as well.
So that's a failure.
I think.
Our government is a failure.
Well, yeah, on many fronts, a failure at being democratic.
Is the country going to learn?
That's a weird thing. DUP, Democratic Unionist Party. Basically every word of that's fucking false. The barely democratic Unionist, if Scotland fucks off and Northern Ireland fucks off, that's not going to do much, is it?
No, they're hardly united with the rest of Ireland, are they?
No. And party, they're dull as shit, so...
Well, we've managed to stretch this out to over an hour.
Wow. Anyway,
You brought a bit of a downer onto it there.
yeah, well, I felt like
yeah, I suppose it was a major
it
failure
needed
on
to
my
be
part.
brought back down to it.
I've got a long catalogue of what you could call failures.
Well, we've talked about that quite a bit over the course of our podcast, but I suppose that one in particular, I don't know.
It's a life-threatening one.
Yeah, well, there's that, but also it's sort of weird on my end because I don't think I've really internalized it at the time.
How old were you? This was
Sort of
2011, was it?
7, I think.
Yeah.
7 or 8.
Yeah.
Depends.
You don't think you've internalized it? What does that mean? In what sense do you mean that?
Well, I especially at the time, I didn't think I internalized it, but sort of even now, I don't know, it just sort
What
of
do you mean by
seems-
internalize?
Well, I didn't really sort of, especially at 7, I didn't realise the seriousness of that I might, if things had gone a different way,
Yeah.
I might have not had a dad.
Yeah.
I sort of interpreted it kind of weirdly. I think.
That is one of those things. I mean, like, I can look back at other events that not necessarily of my own design, but, you know, there was, I remember once doing a temporary job at a factory where it was, they didn't actually make steel, but it was a warehouse for steel. And they had pallets full of steel sheets, basically. And the way they transported them around in the warehouse was they'd have, in like some warehouses, they have like almost like a gantry kind of crane thing that will have a big hook on it for picking up really heavy things, and they would lift things up and then move them along and then drop them somewhere else, like a claw, the claw out of Toy Story.
Claw.
Yeah, that sort of thing. And I got in the way of one of those, probably weighed several tons, this pallet full of sheets of solid steel, and just managed to kind of squeeze myself out. But I could easily have been crushed or cut in half by that. This was like in my early 20s. And I suppose that wasn't a failure, but that in a similar kind of way, there are events which kind of take on that kind of, this could have been a different reality.
Yeah.
for a lot of. I mean, that you wouldn't have even existed if that had happened. And when I look back at some of my bigger failures, you know, I mean, like getting kicked out of the National Youth Orchestra at sort of 15, 16, but also not completing my college course. That was kind of tied up with all the sort of drugs and debt that I got into when I was down in London.
But I guess,
and one of the things that I did when my friends lived in Wembley, we climbed out onto the roof of their house and sat on the chimney of the house on top of like a semi-detached house, pissed out of our faces, just smoking up on the roof. Like, and you just think, that's fucking ridiculous. You know,
yeah,
you could easily have died there. And that, I mean, while for my own purposes, it would have been my fault and I would have perhaps deserved it for being so fucking stupid. You wouldn't have.
no,
And Mum and Nienna wouldn't have. You would have been the non-existent victims, if you like, in every sense, because you would never even have existed, you know. So I count myself lucky. I can't regret anything because the way things have turned out, the failure would be if I was still doing those things.
yeah. I suppose the thing is, you've learned from those mistakes and you've grown as a person.
One would hope.
You still make mistakes, but, you know, they're not quite life-threatening. But also, on a more positive note, and I know you didn't really have much of a role model as a father when you were a kid. You know, at least part of the lessons that you've learned from the mistakes that you've made have passed on to me. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is maybe something that you won't experience, but one of the things that I count as a positive from not having had most of my youth not having had a father figure around, but even when I did having a bad one, was that there wasn't a bad example around a lot of the time. And when there was, I knew it was a bad example, so I kind of steered well clear of that. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
It's like, this is how not to do it.
you had at least you had the sense at the time, and well, I suppose it also relates to how people around you react to that as well.
Yeah.
Because if people had just sort of normalised that, at least if a nan had sort of normalised that abuse to herself.
So I suppose what we're coming down to is failure is a matter of judgment. Whether, I mean, you look at your own failure, but the reason I was saying that was because I look at what I know about my dad's life, and I'm asking myself, do I regard him as a failure? And I can't actually make that judgment. I feel like it's a judgment I'm not entitled to make.
I feel like...
Do you think Hitler was a failure?
Well, there's the thing.
He did, Boris Johnson's a failure.
A large part succeed in a lot of his goals, although they're horrible goals. And then there's a sort of thing about, well, if you fail in making positive goals to the rest of humanity, or just to your local, the people that you interact with.
Here's an interesting thing. You came to see Blinded by the Light, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay, so spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Blinded by the Light, just fast forward a couple of minutes, go and see it, for fuck's sake. But the John Lennon thing, what actually happened in real life, would you consider that version of John Lennon to be a failure? Or the version that we saw in Blinded by the Light?
You're not talking about the same movie. You're talking about Yesterday.
Oh, shit. There's a failure.
Yes. Blinded by the Light is about someone that was inspired by Bruce Springsteen lyrics.
You saw Yesterday as well, didn't you?
I did.
It's a good job, really.
I didn't see it with you. Saw it with Nienna.
All right, okay. So yeah, that
was like a day that we watched like 4 or 5 movies at the cinema.
Yeah. So yeah, see, two very different versions of the same person. Is either of them a failure, do you think? Or
Well, both of them. I mean, I don't really know too much about our realities, John Lennon, I suppose, other than like the music that he wrote. And I know that he started going quite politically left, especially with Imagine. But
is that left?
I guess progressive, yeah.
Do you think left and progressive are the same thing?
Generally speaking, yes.
Because, I mean, Imagine to me is about peace.
Yeah, generally right wing isn't, no. It's about people in power.
This is why I don't understand. I just don't get the right-left debate, because you've got people being nice to each other or people being shit to each other, in my mind.
But then there's a sort of thing, I guess, that people react to about people being shit to other people that are, on the whole, shittier. Like people protesting against or sometimes being violent towards other violent ideologies.
Yeah, yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose. But I guess quite a lot of it is about propaganda. Because naturally, conservatism is about things being kept sort of the same, and the people that have an interest in that happening are the people that are already in power.
I don't feel like I've got my natural inbuilt sensor working at the moment.
Fair enough. But the people in power have the power to persuade, and that is essentially money, buying advertisements, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it also manifests in other ways, like our idols being mostly rich.
Yeah, but again, it comes down to how happy you are. I mean, see, in terms of failure, is somebody who has just enough to live on and is contented with their life a failure, alongside somebody who has become the top of their field and made shitloads of money and become famous and is the best at what they do, but isn't happy?
Top of your field doesn't mean that you make lots of money, though.
No, not necessarily.
Top
but,
of
I mean,
your field in exploiting people is usually.
But I mean, you could be successful in every way, but not be happy.
Yeah.
Are you then?
But then you wouldn't be successful in every way.
Yeah, I suppose. But in every other way.
Yeah. It sort of comes into how our society regards failure.
Well, that comes down to
within capitalism.
That comes down to a really important aspect, though.
Yeah,
it's because you can be successful in every other way than being happy, or you can be successful at being happy but shit at everything else.
Within capitalism,
which is the failure?
There's a quantity attached to your successfulness. You know, how much you earn a year. So within capitalism, you're not successful because, as far as I understand, like, you earn less than 10k a year.
Yeah, I would say that you'd have to earn at least more than twice that to be relatively successful. I mean, the average is, I think the average is well over 20k a year now.
The average is about 40k per capita.
Is it?
But that's usually brought up by mega billionaires.
Right.
Because that's orders of magnitude bigger than what a lot of society makes, or British society makes, at least.
This only reinforces my view of capitalism being bullshit.
Yeah.
Because it's not based on reality. I mean, I personally regard myself as adequately successful. I wouldn't say highly successful, but I'm on the positive side of adequately successful. I'm successful enough for me, and And part of it actually is still having a challenge there, because there are financial difficulties to overcome. But to me, that's kind of, it's how you approach it. It's part of life to have.
But,
things.
There's another trick there, that you need some sort of challenge to get better. But the fact is that challenge would come anyway just from the people around you, because people can just be dickheads.
I suppose the other thing as well is if you're not restricted by the everyday things that most of us are restricted by, like the money and stuff like that. You make your own challenges.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the number of times that I've thought to myself, I would really love to have the time to sit down and write an album. You could do that.
Yeah, but
if you chose to.
It would still be a tough creative process.
Yeah, but you'd have the choice.
Yeah, you'd be at least able to even start that with any hope of finishing it.
I mean, I suppose it's all relative, isn't it? Everybody, at whatever position they are in society, has certain things that a certain level of stuff that is practical to attempt and achieve or fail.
But I think
it must be difficult, like an Olympic athlete, to define and live with the definitions that you've made for yourself of failure and success. I mean, in essence, is a silver medal a failure?
It depends what you're aiming for. Because I've heard, I think it was.
So to me, almost bronze is almost better than silver, because at least you've made the medal table, which is a success, but you've not just missed the top spot.
I guess, but I think it was Ed Byrne, one of his comedy routines, talking about Rebecca Adlington, and a clip of her saying, "I'm a bit disappointed in myself, I only got bronze." It's just like, you're a fucking Olympic medalist.
Yeah.
Only got bronze. I couldn't beat anyone that was even in that competition.
No, but it is all a matter of perspective, isn't it? I mean, if you had been through everything that she'd been through, your goals and your targets and your ambitions and self-worth would be measured in different ways. You have to remind me which sport she was.
Swimming.
Thank you.
Just sort of to bring it home a bit, I guess. Do you get insecurity with like musical ability?
Insecurity. I get pissed off with myself because I know I'm not doing my best.
Right.
But then that's always a difficult thing, because I've always been a perfectionist. So your best is
unattainable, really.
Yeah, but it took me a very, very long time to realise and be able to reconcile that. Because, and I think that does apply to everything, not just music, but being able to recognise that you are a perfectionist, use that to enhance, but also to kind of live with the consequences of that is a really difficult thing to. I wouldn't say difficult, but it takes a long time to learn.
Yeah. I mean,
to accept that unless you're gonna potentially drive yourself into the ground, you're gonna have to accept the best you can do for now. Yeah. Under the current circumstances.
I suppose. I mean, I'm just speaking from fairly limited experience, but doing the concerts that I have, I would say the most important thing in terms of my musical ability is the ability to improvise when something goes wrong.
Yeah, and there's another skill as well that's really important, and it kind of helps you with all of that, is the dynamic ability to move on mid-performance when you make a mistake. Because it's easy if you cock up in a performance for that to then affect the rest of that performance, because you're kind of beating yourself up about it. But if you make a mistake, you've got to be able to let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go. Don't let it
Jesus.
I couldn't breathe then. You were suffocating me. Live on camera.
You could smooth your nose.
I would have licked your hand.
You did a bit.
Did I? I thought I tasted something salty. Actually, my fingers taste of lemon at the moment.
What the fuck?
Well, I had to squeeze some lemons into our chili tofu. You're spiking the fuck out of your mic.
It's okay.
I thought you were serious.
What? Oh. Dick.
Van Dyke. I need a wee now.
Right, before you do. Music, right. So I guess you just sort of, I've noticed this with you, you tend to do it in everyday life as well. This musician's focus, where nothing else fucking, yeah, I mean, it is in your mind, but you just realise there's just sort of laser focus there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where you just have to get into, or you can't fucking play.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, if you're in a concert, you can't be thinking about what patterns there are on the wall or what somebody's doing picking their nose in the audience. Or
no,
you've got to be concentrating on you, the music, and the conductor and the musicians around you, and that's it. But yeah, you can zone out.
I mean,
really easily doing that.
I don't know. I tend to be less focused in rehearsals.
Yeah,
because it's even on the day, like an on the day rehearsal.
There's something special about performances.
Yeah, but you sort of
it's not just adrenaline. There's something.
But there's a sort
tangible
of moment from the setup, and I particularly noticed this when I was doing my AYO concert. I had to help out tune in the timps because I went down to where the tune percussion was to play the actual notes for that. And my grandma was trying to talk to me because they'd just arrived and visitors were coming in. I was just like, I'm just focusing on this. Fuck you.
Yeah. It's like nothing else matters.
Yeah.
As Metallica famously sang.
In what?
On the Black Album.
Okay.
Song Nothing Else Matters. Fantastic song.
I've not actually heard that.
You must check out the Black Album, Metallica's Black Album. Enter Sandman's the most famous song on it, but there's Holier Than Thou, Enter Sandman, what did I say? Nothing Else Matters. The God That Failed. It's a fantastic album. They're best in my opinion. But I know with and Justice for All and Master of Puppets as well are both fantastic. Metallica. Did you listen to Countdown to Extinction, by the way, Megadeth?
No.
The other one is Rust in Peace. That's another really good album of theirs. Okay. Anyway, I don't know how much longer we can keep.
I don't know. It might be worth talking about. I mean, I guess it's seen as more okay because, when you're a kid, making failures is quite
that's cute.
Primary part of your existence.
Yeah. You're learning.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the point of being a kid and even adolescence, although I feel like I sort of...
That brings to mind...
Just grew up in...
When I was at college, and fortunately, and this came out of actually one of my big failures when I got myself kicked out of the National Youth Orchestra. And if you haven't listened to this might be on my one of my earlier Better Call Paul episodes, but I should maybe tell the story. Very prestigious, 150 strong National Youth Orchestra of Great Britain. I got myself into it at the age of 15, 16. And got myself kicked out of it the day before what would have been my first public concert with them through drinking vodka. Now, see, while I do take responsibility for my actions as much as I possibly can, I was, as I say, 15, 16 years old. As far as I'm concerned, not only was there a failure on the pastoral care side of the staff that were there, in that they literally just shipped me off when this happened, but nowadays I'm not sure whether or not it would happen because of the Think 25 thing. I mean, I managed to walk into an off-license and buy myself a quart bottle of vodka.
Yeah, I mean, I've not really heard of
in the mid-80s.
licenses beyond you telling stories.
Yeah. But anyway, what happened, I drank vodka. I set off a fire extinguisher in the place that we were staying in.
I think...
managed to get myself... I went off to the loo when we were all, like, it's bedtime. Went off to the loo, threw up in the loo. And the next thing I knew, I woke up on the floor in the toilet an hour and a half later. Have you heard this story?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just telling it for the listeners then. With the staff banging on the door. They'd been banging on the door so hard that
I think I did hear it on your podcast.
You've listened to my podcast? The door bolt had buckled because they were banging on the door so hard. The only way to get me out was somebody had to hang out of the window of the cubicle next door, which was quite high up because we were on the second or third floor in an old building, and pass a screwdriver through for me to unscrew, while I was pissed, unscrew the bolt mechanism. Anyway, where was I? So this, because of that, do you know what my dad's response to that was? This guy that we see as, or that I have seen as potentially a failure of a dad, because, you know, that marriage ended up in divorce, and he spent most of his life after that, I think, trying to make up for it. Because, I mean, we met up with him at a service station because he lived in Leeds, and we met up with him for him to just kind of... I was scared to death that I was going to get a severe bollock in, and he was just like... It was just really massively... I mean, I thought he was massively disappointed in me, but actually I think he blamed himself. He sent me for... He paid for lessons, trumpet lessons for me in London with a guy called John Wilbraham, who, if you've ever watched Coronation Street...
I have not.
Have you heard the theme tune for Coronation Street? That guy playing the cornet at the beginning is John Wilbraham. And I had lessons paid for...
Would you look at that?
By my dad. As a... I don't know what you would think of it. That was what he did for me when he found out I'd got myself kicked out of the National Youth Orchestra.
Right.
Anyway, the point of the story is that...
No. Did he understand that it wasn't, like, because of musical ability, though?
Well, no, the reason that he did that, because basically when he met me after that failure, if you like, he said to me, "What can I do for you?" Basically, his I mean, he was obviously gutted that I'd let myself get into that position.
Yeah.
And he wanted to know what he could do to help. And I said...
Like in Rocket Man, the Nan says, this is an opportunity. You know, there's opportunities in someone's life that they only get a couple of times or something like that.
He wanted to correct... I think he thought that it was his fault, and maybe it partly was, you know.
Yeah, I mean, having a...
He wanted to make up for...
bad relationship with alcohol.
Yeah.
It can sort of relate
but
to
anyway,
that.
my response to him when he asked what he could do for me was... Because the reason I asked for lessons with this guy was because... he had been the guy who led the brass sectionals. He was the brass leader for that course. You know what the sectionals leaders are.
Yeah.
And I'd been really impressed with him because he didn't just teach the practical aspects of music and musicianship. He used to stop and tell stories about life, about life as a musician. And, you know, stuff that you're not just learning to play an instrument, you're learning to survive being a musician in the professional environment. And one of the stories he told was about how he'd been through a hell of a lot as a musician. He was very successful, but he'd been through some really dark times. And he told us a story of going out on stage with, I can't remember which London orchestra it was. It was something like the Royal Philharmonic or something like that. But you know, a professional orchestra on a professional stage, and he'd gone out on stage to do one of these pieces. I can't even remember what it was, but it was a really challenging piece where he had a big exposed trumpet solo and completely fucked it up because he was pissed on stage,
right,
at like the Royal Festival Hall or something. And he was so pissed off with himself that in the middle of the concert, having fucked up this solo, he stood up and stormed off stage, throwing his trumpet against the wall as he went. So that was one of the most successful professional trumpet players in the country. So I think failure, really, you have to look at the bigger picture.
I've
there are
had
moments.
Similar instructor, I guess. Obviously not to that sort of level. But, tell stories. Usually sort of quite often backstage, like during with my junior concert band, there's the junior string orchestra and advanced string orchestra that go to the same place at the same sort of time on the same buses. And they ask for percussionists sometimes for the backing to them. It is quite often in the backstage part of that they tell stories, or in the break, that sort of thing. Have a particular remember a lesson always showed up to rehearsals because they didn't, and they didn't really know much about what they were playing. They just turned up on the day.
Yeah.
And they didn't realise that there wasn't a gap between one of the movements. Like the first movement went straight into the second movement, and there wasn't a break there.
Yeah.
And they were meant to be playing in the third movement.
Yeah.
Because as a percussionist, usually most of your time is spent sitting on your ass waiting to play, which can be more difficult than you realise.
Yeah, counting bars rest. And like, you'll be 10 bars before we're supposed to come in, and you've counted bars rest for
I guess brass
20
players
minutes.
have some sort of similarities there.
Yeah, I mean, I'd started counting on my fingers.
But like string players are usually playing all the fucking time, so
they tried to bring that in at some point. There was string players were saying that they should get paid by the note.
Oh Jesus! Of course they fucking did. The percussionists would get paid fuck all.
Anyway, do carry on.
So the conductor was just sort of looking at us like, "Why aren't you fucking playing? This is the third movement."
Yeah.
They were just so fucking confused because they thought it was the second movement.
Yeah.
So that was the sort of, I suppose it's just that sort of, and that is that idea of linking back to previously in the episode. My world philosophy, I guess. That teaching others, it's not just teaching others a particular skill, it's life skills as well.
I got a question to ask you.
Yeah. Go on.
Should I go for a piss and come back and finish the episode in a little while, or shall we finish it rather soon because I need a piss quite badly?
Go for a piss now.
Oh no! Now you get a chance to. Do you need another beer?
We shouldn't be that much longer, I don't think.
I can't get out the door.
You're an idiot. The Orbiter is the knob jockey. The Orbiter likes to look at titties. That's just a fact, but I don't know what I'm saying anymore. So I don't know. Oh, that's a weird thing to say about your dad, isn't it? Oh fuck. She's gonna have an existential crisis rather than talking shit. Like a normal person. He still hasn't even gone to the fucking loo. Not sure what he even went to do. Went into the kitchen. Maybe he got a second beer. Road beer, actually. Road beer. Anyway, how are you? That's great. How's the weather up there? I know, right? I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I'm just sort of breaking down slightly. I've had the rule in that Mitchell and Webb look. There's a sketch about if the world was run by people that had had 1.5 drinks, everything would be better. Something along. Well, like the world is run by those people, but if you have any more than that, then everything falls apart. Because it's sort of 1.5 drinks, you have the confidence to say what you need to say, but any more than that, you just act stupid. Speaking of stupid, the Orbiter's almost back. Did you hear what I said? I need to piss as well now, but I'll wait. Did you hear what I said?
No.
You will do, though.
I'm cold.
I know. You heartless bastard. Anyway, right, failure. Music, yes. I feel like we've gone down that avenue. Unless you have anything else to say.
Nah.
I mean, you have enough to say on your own podcast, so
Yeah, I mean, it's an ongoing thing.
yeah.
I was actually thinking while I was in the toilet having a piss, I was thinking to myself, do you know, I don't think you can truly say that you've failed until you're dead. And even then, if you've lived, then I don't think failure's a thing. I think it's something we define.
Well, I think
it's a human concept.
That's that thing of sort of stigma around failure is it is sort of pointless because if you stigmatize that, then
Here's the thing.
people aren't going to improve.
Pick that phrase up from you. Here's the thing. How do you think the ground control stuff felt when the Challenger shuttle blew up?
Probably a bit surprised.
Is that it? Probably a bit surprised. That's a failure of an evaluation.
Do
Do you think they feel like failures is what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, kind of. For quite a while, I guess.
But what do you do when something that catastrophic happens in your life?
You figure out what went wrong. You make a sentence. You figure out what went wrong.
So ultimately, though, to me, does that not mean that the only way that something that catastrophic can be a failure is if you choose for it to be,
Yeah,
or you allow it to be, because there will be a lot of people that were involved in that mission that chose to carry on.
yeah. NASA did continue after that, and I suppose in a greater political sense, probably in a lesser sense because there was less money.
But in some ways, it was maybe to honour the people that were victims of that failure, in a sense.
Yeah, it was sort of to not continue after that is sort of they lived for science. Those astronauts,
yeah, and they will have known what the risks were.
Yeah.
So to not then pick yourself up and start again would really be dishonouring their sacrifice.
I really need to piss.
We're going to have to stop soon.
Yeah, well, we're probably just going to become incoherent soon.
Yeah.
If not already.
We're trying to make sense.
Camera's
That's the
just
camera
gone.
gone. Okay, well, when he gets back, we'll say goodbye. All right, okay, fucking hell. The camera, Jesus. I am going to turn off now. Firebolt's going for a piss. How interesting. Yeah, there's been times I've felt like a bit of a failure over the last almost a year. But at the same time, it's as a result of something which I suppose I could see as one of my most proud successes. The once-in-a-lifetime holiday that I took the family on, where we went to Florida for 2 weeks and did fucking everything. Well, within reason. Caribbean beach for 2 weeks. Dining Plan, Busch Gardens, SeaWorld, NASA, Universal, Halloween Horror Nights, and fucking 2 nights in New York, staying on Times Square, taking the kids to see Hamilton, second row tickets. But it broke me financially. We're going to be recovering for years. That you could see that as a fuck up, but I choose not to. He's looking through the window, thinking I'm bad mouthing him. But I'm gonna have to say it all again. No, fuck it. He can listen back to it. I choose not to, because it is going to leave me with the most successful memories of my entire life so far. What?
What was the beginning of your sentence there?
I've already told them you're going to have to listen back to the episode to find out.
Fine.
So does that mean that I have succeeded? I have not failed in making you listen to this episode?
Depends.
In which case, hello to the Theoing listener. I mean, to the listening Theo. The listening Firebolt.
I'm confused.
Hello, Firebolt, who is listening to this now. I'm speaking to you. Yes, you, with your earphones on, in the taxi, on the way to school. Wake up!
But possibly.
I feel like Jim Morrison.
I know he wanna be Jim Morrison.
What the fuck?
Radiohead.
Oh,
Anyone can play guitar.
Can they?
Anyone can play guitar.
I think we should stop. It's disintegrating, isn't it?
Anymore. No.
Let's go and watch something funny. Finish the beer. Come on. Can we succeed in finishing the podcast?
That wasn't a bad rendition.
That's a really good film. You should see that.
What?
Rendition. It's honestly, no, seriously, it's really, really good.
Or was it casting doubt on it?
No, it is a surprise for me. It was very, very good.
Okay.
Disturbingly good.
Okay.
It's about extraordinary rendition. Don't know if you've heard of that.
No. Care to explain?
It's to do with America and Britain
live in America.
Being involved in, well, America being involved in basically exporting prisoners to Britain to basically torture confessions out of.
Fun.
The reason they export them is so that they don't have to be held responsible for the atrocities that are being committed. But there's a lot more to it than that. It's a fucking ace film, though. Really, really fucking good.
What sort of time period is that?
It was at the cinema when I was working there, released around that time, and it was fairly current, so I'm just looking it up now. But it is one of those films that has that sent a shiver down my back. Like, it's got a twist to it.
It's 1:02 in the fucking morning.
Yeah. It was made in 2007. In North Africa, a suicide bomber unleashes hell in a city square, and an American CIA agent is amongst those killed. Investigations make a link to an Egyptian-born chemical engineer, Anwar, who is on his way from a conference in Cape Town to his home and family in the USA. As he gets off the plane in Washington, he is seized by CIA agents and questioned, then bundled onto a plane to Morocco, where he can be interrogated, because obviously they can't do it on US soil.
Yeah.
So that's what extraordinary rendition is. Rendition is the act of basically sending them somewhere else so that they can be legally, or they can be interrogated without legal consequences.
But there's that whole thing about Guantanamo Bay as well.
Yeah, it's all kind of.
I mean, the US
similarly
apparently keeps paying rent to Cuba for it.
Yeah.
But Cuba's just like, you never owned this land in the first place. Can we just have it back, please?
Anyway, let's. I feel like we've.
It would just be like someone just renting my room and just be like, yes, here's your rent for today. It's just like, it's someone's room. Can you fuck off, please?
Yeah.
Especially
That's
if they were
weird, isn't it?
torturing people in there.
Yeah, but at least they couldn't get the blame for it because it's not their room. If they're paying you rent, it can't be their room.
Logic.
Come on, let's finish off because I need some humour in my life, and we're not funny.
We're becoming a bit.
I feel like we were more pissed at the beginning of the podcast.
Yeah, we had a bit of.
We tried to be serious towards the end.
We had a bit of a serious middle bit, but we had a bit of a breakdown of the podcast. I don't know what.
Let's go.
About.
Let's go.
Yes,
Please help.
Anyway, I've been Firebolt.
And I have been the Orbiter.
Dear listeners. And this has been episode 43? 43? 43?
Yeah, 43.
Episode 43 of Breaking Bollocks.
Failure. What we've got here is
a failure to communicate.
Yay!
I don't need some. What?
What?
I don't need your civil war.
Yay! That's a fucking ace song.
Bid the rich and buries the poor.
That is, isn't it? That is a stunning song.
Down.
I mean, Axl Rose has no right to be that wise.
I mean,
get in the ring, motherfucker, and I'll kick your motherfucking ass.
I don't know. I mean, this is after the intro. Philosophy-wise, I feel like rock musicians are generally like actual rock pop, like actual decent rock is the politics of those sort of people are generally quite trustworthy from what I've seen.
Even when they're not, they tend to be. You can see that they've been done ironically.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's fuck off because of it.
But I mean, when you actually hear that, I mean, like, what's it from Rage Against the Machine?
Oh, Rage Against the Machine. Have you listened to that album? Bomb track, Bullet in the Name. Oh, Jesus. No, Killing in the Name.
Who's
Bullet
the main
in
singer?
the Head.
Who's the main singer?
I don't know. I just used to headbang to it.
I don't know. I saw a thing about he's actually got a
Rage Against the Machine, fucking ace.
degree in politics, I think.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me at all.
Or something to that effect. But
I mean, that's
people were
fantastic album.
berating him for having a political opinion. Well, I actually got a fucking degree in it, so fuck you.
Hang on, what's his name? Vocalist Zach De La Rocha. Yeah, I know you're into good quality rap, especially political based stuff. I would highly recommend the Rage Against the Machine album.
Okay.
It's very, very good. It's very angry, but then that's kind of the point.
Also, drummer from Motley Crue, Tommy Lee.
Mm.
He's quite cool as well. That's all I have to say. Bye.
This podcast is part of the After Dark Podcast Network.